So let's turn in our Bibles, please, to Job chapter 1. Job, the first chapter. And we're going to see very beautifully here some of the principles that God uses amongst his people. So we have Job, and then we have the beggar. But we have the beggar who's got a name, and we'll come to learn who this is. And one of the things I want to kind of introduce on this is there is a mindset within people's thinking. And I find it from time to time within a believer's system of thinking. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus Christ is speaking to the disciples, and they were traveling in a boat, and they didn't take any bread. And it kind of reminded me of what we were talking about earlier. You're moving so fast in life, you forget some of the essentials. So there they are, and they're going to the next place, but they don't have a provision, to eat. So they thought that when the Lord was they were talking amongst themselves about not having any bread. And then the Lord said, beware of the bread of the leaven, he said, of the Sadducees and Pharisees. And they thought he was just talking about wheat bread or barley bread, or, bread that you can eat. But it was the doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And what is that doctrine? Well, it just wasn't a theological statement or a theological mandate. It was a way of looking at life. And the way that these individuals, Sadducees or Pharisees, take away their title, take away their religious label. What do you have? You have a human being. And that human being is going to look on life a certain way. And that way is by sight. And what it is that they were asking for, the Sadducees and Pharisees were asking, they were asking Jesus, show us a sign. Show us something by sight to prove your claims. All right? Whereas a believer, a disciple of Jesus Christ will follow him by faith. So we, as the mandate says, we walk by faith and not by what? By sight. But we have sight, and sight's not going to go away. We're not walking around like, that way. Sight will say one thing, but faith will say something else. And a maturing believer will understand that, and they will learn how to make the switch, to not have the teachings or the viewpoint of Sadducees and Pharisees. And just because they were religious leaders didn't make it right. What they were purporting was that they would believe if they had a sign, something visual to see. The disciples in the boat, Jesus was saying, you believe because you don't see, but you believe my word. And fast forward to the 21st century, and so there are individuals who are either living by sight or they're living by every word that proceeds forth from the mouth of God. And that does not mean that sight will not present itself and make a valid point. It's called common sense. It's called reasonableness. And so let's get this clear. We might as well set this up. There are three forms of perception. And what do I mean by perception? How you see things, or how things are viewed. The first form of perception is rationalization, science, evidence-based. This is very, very prevalent today. People want to say that you are to believe what I'm saying because science backs it. It's backed by science. It's funny because it used to be 30 years ago that if you saw something on TV, maybe 40 years ago, I've been on the planet a little while, but in any case, and you can go into a store sometimes and see items, and it'll have a little sticker on there that says "as seen on TV," like that is then to give the authentic, that it's an authentic item because it's seen on TV. You can trust this item because it was seen on TV. Well, today, you are to trust what's being said or presented to you because it's backed by science. Science is the 21st century final court of appeal. But that's what rationalization is. Rationalization, 2 + 2 = what? Yeah, 4. Okay, we understand that. And things can be seen and perceived by rationalization. The second form of perception is a word called empiricism, or that which is visual, that which is sense-oriented. And the language for that is very interesting because it often says, I feel that this is the right way. What are you being led by? Your feelings. I feel, somebody said, I feel that I'm in love with this person, but they're married. No, it's like, hello, regardless of what your feelings may be, that's not right. But people will follow their feelings. And here's the other statement associated with feelings. I need to be true to myself. This is what they say. I need to be true to myself. I truly feel. That the position that the dysphoric souls, in terms of their identity or their sexuality, this is what they say. I feel that I am a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body. I feel that way. So I need to be true to my what? My feelings. So that's how they perceive, that's how they look at life. So we have logic, reason, that's number one. Number two, empiricism, feeling, sense-oriented. But the third means of perception is faith. Faith. And this faith is faith in a person. Faith in reality. When Jesus Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, those are absolutes, non-negotiable. Nobody says that and just says, well, I am a truth, or I am a life, or I am a way. So now we come to what faith is, and how that for the Christian, for the born-again believer, he doesn't ignore sight or reason, but he lives by faith. And what are we saying? Well, sight can take me but so far. Rationalization, logic can take me but so far. Philosophy, the love for knowledge can only take you so far. Psychology can maybe be able to diagnose and find out what the causes are, but it has no prognosis, meaning has no solution other than maybe pharmaceuticals or counseling or this sort of thing. It doesn't get to the healing that the person may truly need. So we're putting logic and we're putting empiricism in their rightful place. They are subservient to faith. And until a man learns to walk by faith, in some measure he's going to exalt either one of the two other systems of perception. This is why in Romans 12, I need to continuously be having my mind renewed, and that renewance or transformative process happens through the Word of God. Paul says there, I beseech you, brothers, so we know who he's talking to, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable, that's rationalization, okay, your reasonable service, okay, but that's not your service. Just showing up is not your service. Showing up, and then he says, stop being, it's a command in the Greek, stop being conformed to this world's way of thinking. Because you can be. And so he commands us not to go and just live according to rationalization, logic, empiricism, show me the money, but that we would move and be transformed by the Word of God. And so, in Luke 4 and Matthew 4, Jesus said, man does not live by bread alone, but by what? Every word that proceeds forth from the mouth of God. Now, I'm purposely taking a pause, because in the pause, there is no words proceeding forth from my mouth for you to hear and to receive. And I'm doing that to illustrate a principle, and that is what Matthew 4:4 and Luke 4 really are teaching, is that man does not live by bread alone, but every word, the very next word that proceeds forth from the mouth of God. See, so God is speaking today, but he's going to speak tomorrow. And you say, what do you mean God's speaking? You know, I always get tickled by two things. When you do outreach and you tell people, or you ask them the question, you know, do you think that you're going to heaven? I hope so. Okay. And maybe they come to the hope so conclusion based upon what? Rationalization or empiricism. But faith says, I know. So you turn around and you say to that person, say, but I know that I'm going to heaven. And they say, well, nobody can know that. No, well, not by logic and not by empiricism, but they can know it by faith. Okay. And this is the reality for us to live in. Now, what does that have to do with our subject today? I don't know. It's for somebody. And no, it is. It's for all of us. But yes, okay, let's turn to Job chapter 1 here. Yes, sir.
Can you briefly draw a difference, between rationalization and empiricism? Can you briefly draw the difference, versus empiricism, rationalization versus empiricism, just in one sentence?
Rationalization is the reasoning of the human mind based on information. Give me the facts, okay? Give me the math. I can come to a conclusion mathematically. But God is not a math equation. They want him to be. It's very interesting, like they're saying that, this world is a digital, entity. And that,
Matrix.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And there's a mathematical basis for that. Okay, so, and what was the other one that you?
Empiricism.
Empiricism is, you woke up this morning, how did you feel? Okay, but it's raining outside, it's cloudy, it's cold outside. I'm not very, now if it was nice, sunny, 60, 72 degrees, perfect weather, I'm out, I'm not staying in the house, okay? I am motivated by what I can feel and what I can sense. So it's the operation of the five senses, but even the five senses, though we have them, they are not complete in our system of perception. So faith opens up an entire realm of living according to the Word of God. So Romans 10:17, faith comes. This is the other beautiful thing. Logic and reason can be amplified by education, information. All right? Empiricism or feelings or experiences can be amplified by experience. How many have ever been to the Grand Canyon? No, I haven't either. Okay, I've only seen pictures of it. Can I talk about it because of the pictures? Well, I can. But if I went there, this is somebody that told me that, up until the point in time that they actually had taken a trip there and went there, their whole perception of the grandeur of what we're talking about, the Grand Canyon. Oh, no. It is like off the charts. This is their, because they went there and they experienced it. Okay.
Evidence-based.
Yes, evidence-based. That's a good way to put it. Thank you. Evidence, show me, there's a saying for the dear folks in Missouri, I don't know how they got this tagline, but they are the show me state. I'll believe it when I see it. And that's what the leaven of the Pharisees and said, Jesus, we hear what you're saying, but we want a sign to confirm it. Now watch how this works. Are there signs? Yes. Is there prophecy? Yes. But it would be like if I could show you, if you were living by empiricism, I could show you here's a piece of Noah's Ark. Wow. Now I believe the Bible story. Oh, you do? Why? Because you got evidence by sight? Or did you believe the Bible account and what you got by sight only confirmed what you already believed?
Right. So like Peter says, Jesus told Peter, blessed are those who
Yes.
don't see but yet believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't see by sight,
But yet
empiricism, but they see things by faith.
by faith. Yeah.
Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for. The what? The evidence.
Conviction of things
Whoa.
not seen.
Unseen.
Yeah. I mean, how do you have evidence of something that you don't see? Well, we know that in the microcosm world, the world of the microscope, the small things in life, there's atoms, there's molecules, there's, and that's what makes up substance. Okay.
Protons and neutrons.
Even smaller particles that they haven't discovered yet. Who are they? Scientists. And it's very interesting. So the notion that they're looking for the God particle. Well, no. They were looking for the one who made the particle. His name is God. Even if you found the smallest possible, piece of element that makes up created universe, who spoke it into existence? Woo! You see, faith goes way beyond science. It doesn't discredit science, but science tries to discredit the Bible. There are archaeological locations identified in the scriptures that at one point in time, archaeologists said, well, that doesn't exist. There's nothing there. And then they dug a little deeper and they found that there it is. And so I could believe the account of the Bible without evidence. Because I have faith, which is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. So it is a different way of walking and living and breathing and talking, and this is why it's very radical. It's not religion. If we were talking religion, we could say, well, my religion believes that you need to go to Mecca. My religion believes that you need to pray 5 times. Well, my religion believes that, you need to be circumcised. My religion, so all of these things that my religion may require of me has very little to do with the reality of the one who created the existence, created you, created me. And then what did he do that? What purpose for why we are here and created? That is really the question that only the Word of God can answer. So, Job says here, and this is so good, in verse 20. Now, Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshiped. He what? He worshiped. He entered into the realm of faith. What did he lose? He lost his wealth. He lost his family. He lost his health. And let me just say that in the world of empiricism and in the world of logic, those 3 things, your health, your wealth, and your family, constitute success or, reality. How's your family? I'm always blessed by the body of Christ in Africa. They are family oriented. So they'll ask me, how you doing, Pastor? I'm doing fine. How's your family? It means something to them. It does. But the point that we want to make here is that Job lost everything by sight. But what did he not lose? Everything that he had by faith. Okay? And so he lost everything here, shaved his head, fell upon the ground in verse 20 and worshiped. This is what he said, 21. Naked came I out of my mother's womb. Naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And in all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. Now we can, from a very rational perspective, say, what is that? You mean to tell me Job lost everything and he's still happy? But it doesn't say that he's happy. It just says that he's able to still walk, having lost everything by sight, everything that logically would make a man secure, make a man happy, make a man a man. You know how that goes. He doesn't have that. But what does he have? God. Yeah. And so do you. So do I. This is the important thing.
He was obedient to God.
Hmm?
He said, Job was obedient before this happened. I think Job was always obedient to God because he would put God first and everything second. You know, he would put God, in his mind, when he prayed to God, his whole being was putting God first, because that's what God taught him, you know, put me first and everything second, and I'll take care of it. So when these things happened to Job, it mattered to him, but he trusted God, you know. Even though the family, his loved ones and everything left, but he still was, it's like a rock on a mountain, like he stayed on the rock, you know, the rock was, you know, secure.
Yeah.
He had a place of security that was not based on logic, didn't make sense to the rational person. And, you know, what do you have to show for it, Job? You know, you've lost everything. You know, like, what are you trusting in? I can't see what you're trusting in. No, you can't see it unless you walk by faith.
And even if everything was good, he still, like, by sight, everything was in order. But he still brought sacrifices for his children, because if they sinned, you know.
Yeah, I was going to go there. You know, it's very interesting. And I think that's what you're touching on, is that even when things were prosperous and happy and good, and he had his reputation, and he was an upstanding citizen, yeah, he still had a life of faith. I think, you know, just as a sidebar, that the more difficult challenge is the prosperity challenge. And let's not think of the fact that prosperity means that I win the lottery. It just means that I get smug, if that's a good word. I get not, you know, godliness with contentment. 1 Timothy 6:6 is great gain. Godliness with contentment. But if I get content in myself, you know, I'm good. You know how people are, you know, like they don't have the problem. Here's a person that says, you know, we're knocking on the door and we're saying, yeah, we're sharing about Jesus Christ. And the guy says, oh yeah, you need to go 2 doors down. They have a lot of trouble. What are they saying? They're saying 2 things. One is that they've already judged that household, you know, in terms of their status. And the second thing is that they determined that they're not in trouble. So they don't need God. What do I need God for? I only need God when I'm in trouble. And this is the mystery of Job's life, is that when he wasn't in trouble, he had God. And now that he is in trouble, he still has the Lord.
Because
So
his faith was built on
Excuse me.
rock. You know, his faith was built on the rock. So he never left the rock. You know, his faith was built on the rock. So anything that happens, anything that happened to him, I mean, I can't explain it in words, but he dealt with it, but it didn't affect him. It might have affected him more if his faith wasn't built on the rock.
Oh yeah,
and those things happened to him, he probably would have killed himself or something, you know.
And we know that happens. People go, you know, let me put it like this. This is so good. I'm glad you brought this up. Disaster, okay, trouble,
Yeah.
problems. They happen to everyone. Believers are not exempt from that. You know, if somebody were to say, oh, so-and-so, they got the diagnosis, they got cancer. Oh, there must be something wrong in there. No, don't even go there. That's wrong analysis. You know, that's the way the world would think. And in fact, Job's 3 friends all came to the wrong conclusion. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They thought, you know, Job, hey, come on. Why are you justifying yourself? Why are you speaking up for yourself? Why are you, you said you're going to remain in your integrity before God. We think that there's something secretly wrong in your life. And that's why they question him the way they did. Well, that's another part of the same story. But, you Now let's go to Luke chapter 16, please. Luke chapter 16. Now, there's just 12 verses that cover this teaching. The rich man and Lazarus the beggar. Now, remember we said, well, this is not a parable. Why is it not a parable? Or maybe you thought it was a parable.
I remember son.
I mean, Luke is writing it, so
Luke is right.
it must be a historical narrative, or,
It was
Because of who's writing it.
yeah. I mean,
Okay. But there's
It was
another
straightforward.
Straightforward.
It was straightforward. You know, parables you have to decipher.
Hmm.
There's something more, but he was like straightforward with this one.
The key, both you guys are close, I mean, it's nothing. The key is that in parabolic teaching, there are no proper nouns mentioned, no names. Here we have not just the rich man and the beggar, but we got the rich man and Lazarus. So it's an actual historical account, and we want to see this. So beginning in verse 19 of Luke chapter 16, there was a certain rich man which was clothed with purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. You know this story. And there was a certain beggar named who? Thank you. Okay. Pastor, can't you read your Bible? I can. I just like the interaction. Okay. And let's take a look here. Verse 21. That's on the screen there. And desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table, moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. 22. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and then what happened?
And the rich man
also died.
Well, let's read what it says in verse 22.
Okay. So it was the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom.
Wow. Do you and I understand that when we die physically, now death is not the end, death is the door. Death is the means by which we transition from time into eternity. Now, I'm talking this way only because the Bible makes this clear. This is not wishful thinking. You know, wishful thinking is a Hallmark card that says, he's in a better place, or she's, okay. We're not talking that way. We're talking about the fact, 1 Corinthians 15, absent from the body, face to face with Jesus Christ. Not only that, but here it's saying that when Lazarus died, he was transported from time into eternity by who? Angels.
Wow. Yeah.
Angels. You know, there's going to be an escort when you pass from time into eternity. That's an amazing thing. That's just so comforting. But then it says that the rich man, same thing happened to the rich man, right? But then we see something by faith that empiricism and logic can't touch. It's invisible, but it's revealed to us. And
when it says that angels carried him, is there a span of time? Because there's another passage that says, in the twinkling of an eye, when you die, your brain, you lose consciousness, and it's like a nanosecond. When you wake up, you're in another place, Is it that fast? Is it that quick?
Is it that quick?
Yeah. You get
Jesus talks about the rapture as well, he did, but Paul did, the twinkling of an eye. How fast is that?
That's
I mean, it's like all of a sudden,
blink.
not even all of a sudden, I'm standing here,
yeah.
I'm blinking, I'm still looking at you.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't go anywhere. But the next blink, I could be in eternity.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now again, that's biblical teaching. Now science, or so-called science, wants to. Now you used the word sleep. Did you?
No, it's used like I said, well, when you said angels carry him to heaven, normal person would think that, okay, he's on the wings of angels. He's floating to the sky. He's going to heaven.
Okay.
He's passing,
Billions and billions and billions of
right,
miles.
But in the twinkling of an eye, that's different. You blink and you're like, okay.
Well, let's think about this. I have fun with this.
Okay.
Where is eternity?
Okay.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, it's just outside of time.
yeah.
So I could be standing here facing you. Let me do it for the folks that are viewing. I could be standing here facing you and turn, and I'm in eternity. See, we tend to think that heaven is like far, far away, because we look at the expanse of the universe. But the Bible teaches us very clearly there's 3 heavens. And anytime you find the word in the plural, you need to understand that it's not talking, well, the first heaven is the atmosphere around the earth. And there is a fallen angelic demon, Lucifer, who's running the show, the prince of the power of the what? Air. Okay, that's the first heaven. The second heaven is where, Hubble and what's that, James Webb telescope, they're scoping all that stuff out, okay? That's the second heaven, created existence, eons of whatever, expansion of space. The third heaven is wherever God is. But since he's what? Everywhere present, then there's no distance between where I am. I'm on planet Earth, okay? But I don't need to go through the first heaven, second heaven, and then finally arrive to heaven. Like one of the angels could say, like, where you been? Oh, I got the last bus out of Dodge, I mean, it was a slow bus.
The thing about it, yeah, but it's like when you think of things, it's like, okay, the first, second, and third heaven. You can think of things, you can think that, okay, Mars is, okay, you think of Mars is, but your brain takes you there right away.
Oh, okay.
It's like your brain is like, you're there, Could it be that fast? It's like, you can think of the third heaven, you can go through different, solar system, galaxies, and your brain can be there, right?
Yeah.
It's just that fast.
I kind of think that's so good.
Mhm.
I kind of think that, when we get to heaven, eternity, we could be billions of light years distance apart from each other, but like what you're saying, in an instant of a thought, we're together.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you. That fast. So you know what? I mean, it's going to be different. That's what we do know. And there won't be any time. So how do you measure distance? You measure distance, well, you could by miles per what? Per hour. That's kind of like, or kilometers per hour, whatever. It's funny that distance is connected to time.
Yeah, that's beyond our comprehension.
It is beyond our comprehension. Thank you very much. There's a whole lot beyond my comprehension. But see, that's what we're saying. See, logic can't figure that out. Rationalization can't figure that out. And empiricism, can try to view it, but there's a limit to what the telescope can see. There's a limit to what, the microscope can see, or that device in France and Switzerland, Haladron, the collider device. There's a limit to the science. But faith is there. Faith is like, I'm there.
And there is the distortion.
The distortion.
Of evidence. Like you can do something and then I have it on video and I can just cut into pieces and make an evidence that this is the evidence he stole.
You know what? It's come to that. Unfortunately, it's come to that.
They can only assume.
And I say, it's going to be very difficult. This, I get interested. When the Bible says that the times would get so distressful that if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived. Well, what is, like what you're talking about is, a digital representation that's not real. AI is part of that, okay? And then also there's software now that anybody, used to be only somebody's, but now it's anybody could take your face, put it on someone else's body in a place that you've never been and show that, and then they say, hey, there's the evidence. He was there. And so you are guilty till you prove yourself innocent, which is the justice system has been turned on its head here in the West. It used to be you were innocent and then had to be beyond a reasonable doubt proven guilty. But now it's like, no, you're guilty. Smoking gun, you must have been there. And now it's up to you to prove your innocency. That's the reversal of the judicial system that we used to have here in the West. And so it's going to be very difficult.
Yes.
We could go online and see images of people that we know, and we're wondering like, and they could say things, they could imitate your voice. And now you're saying something, I used to be a Republican, now I'm a Democrat, and I am for, yes. And you say like, wow, what happened to him? Yes.
Not to get off the subject, you see your dentist appointment at 9?
No, 10.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You said
I appreciate
9
you.
something.
I have to leave at 9:30.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, just want to.
Thanks for looking out for me.
Okay.
So the beggar died and was carried but then the rich man also died and was what? Buried. And figure that, in his wealth, he probably had a pretty extravagant funeral. Just, all the fixings, we could say. Gold casket, and, pulled down the center of town on 4 white horses. What are we saying? But he's buried. Verse 23, and in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeing Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me. Send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. Literal place, ladies and gentlemen.
Does that, when you said when the beggar died, the angels took him?
Yeah.
But when the rich man died, it didn't say anything about the angels.
Thank you. Not at all.
Not at all.
No angelic escort.
Yeah.
Yep. But verse 25 sheds light on something. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, but not evil in terms of poneros. This word here is kakos, or worthless things. That was the crumbs from the rich man's table. But now he is comforted and you are tormented. This is the picture of how by empiricism, by sight, Lazarus looked like he was the loser. And the rich man looked like he was the winner. By sight. How far did it take us? Till death. After death, Sight can't see. Rationalization can't figure it out. But faith gets a revelation of what really went on. And then if you notice here, and this is so good, verse 31, or verse 30. No, verse 28, I'm sorry. No, verse 27. Hey, let's go to Genesis 1:1. Can't make a mistake with that. Verse 27, then he said, I pray you, therefore, Father, that you would send Lazarus, him, to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come unto this place of torment. Okay? So what is this? He says they need to be forewarned that this place is real. Now, you got people today in the 21st century who say, logic, it's not logical that a loving God would send anyone to hell.
Yeah.
But we're not talking logic, we're talking justice. Then it says, and Abraham said unto him, verse 29, they have what? Moses and the prophets, let them hear him. So the Lazarus heard something. And so did the rich man, but the rich man was too busy living his life. Mm-hmm. Now, when we think of sin, don't think of, smoking, drinking, carousing, murder, adultery, lying, stealing. Those are sins, but the real sin is when people just live their own life. They ignore what is revealed to them, and God will reveal it to them again and again and again and again and again and again. And they keep saying no, 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 maybe later, no, no, and then they die.
Because they're people in their own realm, they're in their own bubble. They're saying, like, well, this is my life, I'm comfortable in my little space, in my bubble, and nothing's going to deter me,
it says that the rich man's wealth is like it keeps him, I think this is in Proverbs, keeps him in his own conceit. He gets conceited. He just thinks he's okay. Well, why not? Well, look, I got my wealth, I got my health, I got my family. Check me out. I'm a winner. And this is why Job's testimony is very important to us, because Job had all those things plus God. And if he didn't have plus God, like you were saying, right? Like he would want to jump off a cliff. My life is not worth living. I don't have a reason to live anymore.
So would it be safe to say that when you think about King Solomon, he had all those things?
Yeah.
He was very rich, but he went through all those things and
multiplied his sources.
He came to the conclusion that nothing. He was still sad inside.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything under the sun.
Yeah.
Anything rooted in the temporal value system, which has a value. The temporal value system has a value, but then when you die, it's over. Mm-hmm. Or moth, rust, and thieves can break in and steal your temporal value system. It's vulnerable. But Jesus says, no, put your treasure in heaven where you can't get ripped off.
So not to get off the subject, but did King Solomon, he experienced those things, but then he said that, well, it didn't make him happy,
Turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
And he decided to put his faith in God,
Well, he had the testimony of his father David. Go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and you'll see the answer. But that's very good. Yeah. Why did that happen? Two reasons. Go ahead, turn there. So
but he wasn't on on Ecclesiastes 12?
Yes. Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
His face wasn't on the rock.
What was it in? Well, while you're turning there, so he had wisdom from God. He prayed and says, I don't know how to come in. I don't know how to go out.
Right.
I need your wisdom, God. And God gave it. And because he asked for wisdom, he got all the other things that any other person would ask for. Wealth, no enemies, health. Okay, so
Ecclesiastes 12, what? Was it 12?
Verse 1, what does it say?
Remember now you're created in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come and the years draw nigh when you say, I have no pleasure in them.
Yes, wow.
Okay.
Remember, and Solomon could do that because his father David.
Okay.
David's taught him, okay, but what happened was that we could say it, and it's a technical position that he backslid.
Okay, okay.
He got occupied in the temporal value system, did everything that the temporal value system could offer. He built gardens, he built buildings, he had armies, he had women, he had, the best food, everything that the temporal value system offered. And that's the same proposition today, that people should live for the here and the now and get all that they can get. Enjoy your life. This is the mantra for the 21st. Well, it's the same mantra. Enjoy your life. It's your life. No, it's not. No, it's not. Well, what do you mean it's not? Well, because the Bible tells us that God is the giver of life, and you are, and I am a steward. That means we have to return. We're going to go back. Okay, and that's what, Lazarus was all about. Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. The image got off. So, let's wrap this up. Because it's, okay. Here we go. Here's the conclusion. Matthew 9 and verse 13. Matthew 9 and verse 13. And by the way, Chance, in Ecclesiastes 12, it goes on to say, and this is the sum of the whole matter. Fear God and obey his commandments. Bang.
Is this the whole duty of man?
Yeah, that's right. The whole duty, of man.
Wow.
So, yeah. Matthew chapter 9.
Hi.
Matthew chapter 9 and verse 12. But when Jesus heard that, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Now, this is not my opinion of them. This is a self-evaluation. There's people who are sick, but they're not well. Okay. They think that they have everything, and they're really, what Revelation 3:16 speaks about, the Laodicean spirit, I am rich, I've increased in goods, and I have need of nothing. Wow. That's the spiritual age, the church age that we are presently living in. So people are not thinking that they have a need for God. They don't think that they need a physician. I'm fine. Look at, I got material things. I'm okay. I'm living my life. I'm happy, not full of joy, but I'm happy. And so this is the plague of any person. But those that know that they're sick, broken, the Bible says that God despises not a broken and contrite spirit. Why? Because they realize their need for Him. They're not living in self-dependency. And so what Matthew chapter 9 here and verse 12, they that be whole in their own opinion and need not a physician, I didn't come for them, Jesus says, but I came for them that are sick, those that we could say in life are losers. They hit rock bottom. They have no wealth. They have no position. They have no influence. They have their pockets are hanging out. They don't have, like what happened to Job. And so, though Job offered sacrifices, he needed an adjustment. And so do we, because a rich man can trust in his riches secretly. He can say in his heart, I've gotten this wealth. It was me that got this wealth rather than the Lord. So, but that's for another time. But notice verse 13, but go you and learn what this means. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. Now, when we think of sacrifice, we think of, giving up something. But the sacrifices of God are a broken and contrite spirit. What does that mean? It means that it's not that I'm relinquishing something that I possess. I am giving myself. I'm giving me. So, instead of being a person who is living for themselves, by faith, they are a person who gives themselves to Jesus Christ to live. They give themselves to Jesus Christ to live. And we have to do that by faith. It doesn't make logical sense. Reasonableness doesn't come into the play. The truth of what may be seen by sight, so Job, you lost everything but you worship God. How can that be? Well, because I don't live by bread alone, but I live by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Okay.
Because he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sacrificed himself to let God in.
And mercy is what? Not getting what you deserve. Did you ever hear somebody that said the punishment must fit the crime? In other words, if you jaywalk, you might get a $25 fine. But if you commit murder, then we're going to take you off the planet.